All right, welcome to the Spoiler Kings. My name is Tank Kramer with Brandon the Grizzly, and we're here to talk about the newest episode of Invincible. Holy crap, man! We got 2 episodes left, right? So this is what, episode 6?
Yep, this is episode 6.
Episode 6.
Do you feel like this was a filler? Was this a filler episode again?
It kind of was, but I feel like it drove the point home more than it did last episode.
What do you think,
Brandman?
Yeah, and I like how it kind of tackled the fallout from what had happened in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of I like how they addressed that. How people reacted like that, or to that. Heck, it was the origin story of the antagonist of this episode. So I kind of liked that. Yeah. So on surface level, it's kind of easy to kind of write it off as a filler episode, but it did kind of help with driving the plot forward. So I can't really call it. I can't really call it.
Did it really drive the plot forward?
For Mark, yes. For one specific character, the main character, it did.
So the story moved on. Like, I feel like
not the story, the plot. Those
really,
are I always see them as 2 different things. It moved.
Not really. I mean, no. The character you built the character. That's what fillers do. They build characters. They give you more in depth about the character. So when we had the 22 episode seasons before, all the filler episodes will build the character and understand the character more. I believe it's totally a filler episode. The problem is that you had 2 filler episodes back to back. It's the definition of a filler, but it doesn't. Filler doesn't have to mean nothing. Filler just means the plot actually didn't move from the time you started to the end. Nothing different happened in the big story. So the big parts of it are still sitting there, and nothing got closer except for time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the definition of a filler episode. Doesn't mean it's a bad episode. No, that's not what I'm saying, because I enjoyed the episode, and I thought that it went places that I was not ready to for them to go at all. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't mean it's not a filler episode.
Because of last week, they should not have done last week's episode and then done the same thing this episode, just done way better, because it was all about Mark and his morals and where does he stand and how it affects him. That's what the last episode and this episode are.
And this episode before that too.
No, the episode before that was
when he's being challenged.
But that's what him and his.
But you do this. You did this. It's the same thing. It's literally been 3 episodes of the same thing. For Mark,
I have to go back and remember what the last, because that was episode 4. That would be
when he was
right, because episode 5 was with Titan, mm-hmm. right, where he had to figure out his morals. Episode 4 which one was episode 4? That was
with the twins, right?
The Mahler twins, right? Getting
Mahler twins, yeah.
And
Oliver destroying them and not taking anything for life, and then saying, why is that okay for you to do but not for me to do? It's the same thing, Mark, with morals. It's literally
I think that one pushed the story forward, because
it's the same thing though. It's
but the whole season's about the morals, but it's an Oliver story and how Oliver is affecting Mark.
Yes,
and
so
things changed.
So
also the Guardians broke up and stuff.
Definitely is a filler. This one was definitely a filler. So as you said, the way you said the story chain went on is because Mark, his morals. Well, every episode is about Mark and his morals. So you literally just said it.
I mean, no, but
you're saying the words.
That's what the whole show is also about too. Is Mark and morals.
So that means that nothing else happened then, right? So the story, the plot did not move along. We didn't have an extra tidbit what's going on with Alan. We didn't get any of that other stuff. Nothing else in the story happened. So it's literally a filler episode.
it's
You
it's
like the
hard for me
episode,
not
so
to
you don't want to
say.
say
It's hard for me to say it's not a filler because like I do agree with you that like certain things didn't push other
nothing.
characters forward, but I think it filling in the lore like of what happened with Chicago and how it affects the world, I thought was important.
Isn't that what the filler does though?
A filler, a filler
Because
episode, I always feel like just it doesn't do anything. It's just there
Yeah, it just kind
to
of brings things to a standstill.
I
yeah.
always felt a filler episode always focuses more on the character, their character development, gives you more world building, character building type of stuff,
Then
and
that's not a
doesn't do
filler. If
anything to
it
the
does
plot.
something, then it's not a filler. A filler, like
Literally,
Brandman said,
I'm looking at the
when
definition of a filler. If the plot doesn't move on.
yeah, but the plot moved on this one.
Okay, I'm just gonna say.
I mean, did it not?
No, it didn't. No, the whole point of the entire
No,
season.
I still think
it just Mark's character got more filled out. I feel like that's and we understood Mark more, but the actual plot of what's going on, no. Just like I would say the same thing about in episode before episode 5.
Episode 5, yeah,
nothing else happened.
That was
But
my
Mark,
issue.
but you still built on something. So Oliver got more filled out in episode 5.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just a filler because it's not doing anything to the actual plot that's going on. The whole point of the entire season of what they're doing. So it's the same thing. But you didn't get anything else from anyone else. We're not looking at what happened to Nolan, what's going to Alan. We haven't heard anything from that since episode 4. That's the Vulturemite coming here. Nothing changed since episode 4.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't get to episode 7 without anything changing. The Vulturemite invasion is the big problem. And we talked about it in the episode 4. Hey, there's only 50 left. And then we had two episodes, right? That didn't even mention it again. Because even though that's the big overarching point in the whole of the plot. So literally, the plot did not move. It's the exact same from episode 4 than it is when we start episode 7. It's literally filler.
My issue is the last episode and this episode did the same thing, except the last episode did it so bare bones where like, oh yeah, it's about Mark. Like, okay, cool. And then the side, of Titan and his thing is like, which no one really cares about. Here you bring in bad stuff from season 1. Like, don't get me wrong, I can see why, because why but a lot of people call it a filler. It's just I don't know.
I think what it is emotionally it tied you in and brings you in, and it felt like it was a good episode. Just because it's a good episode doesn't mean that it's not a filler episode. I enjoyed this episode. This is actually one of the episodes that I enjoyed more than three or 4 of the other episodes.
Yeah, this is definitely one of the best episodes of the season, I think.
But did it do anything? Are the same stories, the same problems we had before still there? Yeah. Did we even see Cecil in this episode? like I'm just saying, there's when you really look at when you step back and you look at it, you say, okay, no. But emotionally, it definitely grabbed you, right? And then
I'm curious to know what you think about next week because I know what's coming on next week because of the post-credit scene. I wonder if you think next week is going to be a filler too.
And I think we're going to see Cecil. I think we're going to see other characters have to more of a development. We're going to see why they're acting the way they are. I think
I don't think we're getting any of that next episode.
You don't think so?
Nope. Because they already told you what's going to happen at the end of this episode. I don't know. I don't want to spoil it, but yeah, we're getting a big comic book part. That does again changes what Mark is, who he is as a character.
I think I thought we were going to get more Cecil in episode 7, especially since episode 8 is it. So
Yeah.
I thought they were
Well,
going
the
to get more
season's not going to
season.
end where I think it was going to end. If it does, that means you're rushing through two major plot points in it. You know, like, yeah, this next episode is going to stretch out for the next two episodes. You know, you have a war coming. You know,
Yeah, I mean, you know the war is coming, and I think that I thought into 7 was that you're going to understand Caesar's point to what was happening and why he's the way he is and why he sees things the way he sees them, and then we'll see the Viltrumite war towards the end of the episode, with the last 10 or 15 minutes or so,
no Viltrumite war.
get closer. Nope. But we're not going to see the war because the war is going to be all 8 episode 8, but it's going to get to a point where at start of episode 8 you're going to get something.
Nope. You're going to get Invincible War. You're going to get Invincible War. That's what's coming.
Oh yeah, because we saw all the Invincibles, all the different Invincible.
You're gonna get the Invincible War, and after that, you get another Viltrumite, one person. Which Anissa already said that. She already said like, oh, the next person that comes is gonna be much more scarier, and fuck, he is. You know, but I don't think it's gonna end there. I think the next 2 episodes are gonna be the Invincible War. You know, and I think that's how the season ends, which is kind of disappointing. I won't say upsetting. It's disappointing because I really wanted to see Mark versus.
I don't think him fighting all those Invincibles would be filler. I think that would be getting to a big point. I don't think this was that same thing. So.
It just, I don't know. I mean, maybe I do have blinders on.
He's still fighting other Viltrumites because it's still Mark, right? He still is, right? So it's a prelude to the entire big war.
You know, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe like you're right. I have blinders on because this episode was one of my favorites. And who's it? Aaron Paul played Power Plex.
Yeah, that was interesting.
He needs to have a freaking Emmy for what he did in this episode, like a guest Emmy, whatever the hell nomination, whatever the hell they do that shit, like guest appearance Emmy or whatever. Because holy shit, he played that character so well. Like you felt all the pain.
Yeah, it really reflected, and it was kind of like that barely like controlled pain. There was kind of a sense of almost like he was trying. You could tell that he was trying to restrain himself in his voice, but he couldn't quite, which I really appreciated.
Yeah, I want to see the behind the scenes of that because I feel like it's a lot of him screaming, but like holding, like you said, holding back from screaming. So I'm sure a lot of veins and necks kind of look from him, you know. But like I just thought that character and what he brought to Mark was really interesting. You know, like you are the bad guy in some of these stories, and you know, in somebody else's story, Invincible is the bad guy. And there is nothing he could have done that would have changed it. Nothing.
I don't think he need to, because I don't think it was his fault.
No, of course not. It's not his fault. But
no, but and I think Scott was wrong, and he was blinded. And someone, the fact that no one that he, first of all, the fact that he works with Cecil in that office what is a problem, right? And then the fact that he didn't give them the actual tools to deal with some of their problems was a huge problem too. So like I thought that was interesting that he worked there, and then you know no one told him Nolan's probably the bigger problem.
He is.
And it wasn't that Mark did anything, it's just that Nolan threw Mark into this building.
Well, they told like when he was in the garage with, I'm not sure who that was, but his boss or a police, you know, and she's like, he saved us from global, you know, dominance, you know, all of us.
He said, but it was like, from his father. It's still his fault. So you didn't want to blame Omni-Man. You wanted to blame Invincible. That didn't make any sense to me. Why are you saying? Because Invincible tried to save him as he was getting thrown into a building. So because he tried to do it, that's why you blamed him. I thought that was just weird. Like it was misplaced. No, not weird, because it was misplaced anger, but it just was wrong. You know, Mark got to know that he was wrong. You know, there is such thing as collateral damage. There is, but you didn't do it. Someone threw you into it. it could have been anyone else that got thrown into that building,
Mm-hmm.
and the building's going to come down. They would have died, and everyone else would have died.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But he's so caught up in his emotions that he thought like Invincible was equally to blame, you know, for whatever reason.
And then blamed Invincible from killing his wife and his son.
Oh God. Bro, like
not realizing that you are your own worst enemy.
Yeah.
You're doing this. You're causing it because of your perception. Your perception is what ruined it.
Yeah. Yeah. And at one point I'm thinking like, oh, maybe they're gonna do where his wife is like, hey, maybe you should pull back a little bit. Instead, she like fed into his craziness and all that. Like the part that got me was when he ties up his son. Oh my God. I was like, you're off the deep end. Like
but she agreed.
She's just as bad as or just crazy or something, whatever. But yeah, it's just because it kind of brings up like what are you willing to do for when somebody dies, and you think somebody's to blame for it? Like how blind can you get, from rage and revenge, kind of thing.
No, it was grief.
It's grief, yeah.
And it was the problem was that they didn't provide them with any way to have an outlet of their grief.
Mm-hmm.
So you have two people that are grieving together. They amplify their grief even more. No matter what, they didn't even see what they had anymore. They didn't see that they had his son.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't realize he had this power that I can protect them. He couldn't get past his grief and the fact that entire office, no one saw the grief there, and no one provided any type of counseling, even though they knew he was going through something, was a problem. Mm-hmm. They're more a problem, and Mark needs to be mature enough to be able to recognize that.
Yeah, which I think he was at the end, because like
he was feeling sorry for himself. I'm sorry. I do remember them. I remember like there's no reason. Why would you even tell them that? I do remember them. I just didn't know their names, but I do remember. No, I would say I was trying to.
Sorry. I mean, he was feeling sorry for himself, but I think he was trying to tell him like, like they mattered. And that's what a hero's supposed to say, right? It's like, I'm sorry they mattered. I'm sorry I didn't know. Now I know.
There's no reason to say anything to what can you say to a man that just lost his child and his wife because of how angry he already was?
Yeah.
So you even think that you can rationally speak to him was just immature.
Yeah. Well, I think that's why. Well, that's why he walked away. Go ahead, Brian. I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying. Yeah, I agree, but. In some cases, that's the way of the hero. They try to talk him down first, but this dude was just he was completely out of control. There's only one way to deal with him: put his ass down.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Is that the right thing to do? I mean, I because obviously he's not going to kill him, because that's what he doesn't believe in killing, but. This man's just gonna sit in prison and get worse mentally, I think. And it just was so sad. But even like that's why I think Mark was trying to be like, hey, I was wrong or blah blah blah, or you have a right to be mad. But then like he saw how crazy he was, and he didn't respond. He's like, and just walked away. Because he's like, okay, there's
he said, but I wanted I'm trying to say, and then that's he had to leave.
Yeah,
because he was already doing it. But it wasn't like he walked away like he's like, oh, I believe what I'm saying. He walked away like he's going to feel sorry for himself, and I thought that was just the wrong response anyway. He did the wrong thing, that trying to even rationalize one. You need to get him to understand what role he played in this.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And that I think Mark didn't do. Mark was focusing on himself so much he didn't realize he should be focusing on him, his pain, his mistrust. What he did, you killed your kid, you killed your wife because of your own grief, and you want to blame me now? But no one's talking to him on that level.
Yeah. No one was like it should have been caught like from the garage. Like she was just like, there's nothing we could do. you know, which is like again the wrong thing to say, you know, to somebody who's like, I just deal with it, you know, pretty much, you know, and because like that was the early part of him like showing like, oh, you're going down this rabbit hole of like, oh, he secretly did this with his dad and blah blah blah. He's really the bad guy and this and that, and like
I
you're
didn't think
going down
that
this crazy route.
was that. See, I didn't think that was. I thought that was closer to when he was becoming, because he just got. They just found out he stole all those things. So I thought
In
that
the
was like.
That was before in the garage. I think that might have been before he even had a kid, you know,
But we
because
didn't
there
know
was
about the
some,
kid until later. Yeah,
yeah,
we didn't know about the kid, but I
yeah,
thought that because this only happened, 2 years ago. So
mhm,
like she might have been pregnant right at the time when he said she wasn't feeling well.
yeah, yeah,
He said he told his sister she wasn't feeling well. She was pregnant.
yeah,
That's the way I read it. And
yeah,
then in the garage was after all the death and all this stuff. I thought that was like closer to the point when he was looking at Mark like, I'm gonna get this guy.
yeah.
So
Well, he was looking at the government to get him, right? Because he's like, oh, here, all this evidence, we can charge him with this, and we can you can arrest him and hold a trial and this and
for
that.
trial and
Yeah,
go to jury and
yeah,
decide. But I
yeah,
thought that still was within like 2 or 3 months of all this.
yeah.
You know,
It was
it
closer
was still very
to
soon, like
yeah,
to the point where he was already there. So like I
yeah,
didn't think it was a lot of time in between any of that stuff. For what he ended up doing and then what actually happened.
yeah. Yeah, that's the one thing with the show with their time is interesting. They don't tell you how much time has passed, so you kind of have to guess.
Mhm.
And sometimes it feels like messy, you know.
And
And
I
I
feel
feel
like I
right.
feel like they touched on that on this episode. Didn't they say like X amount of time between the Chicago incident and the current narrative?
I think,
Or
yeah, I think
or
it's
am I remembering it wrong?
no, I think we're like
No, I think you're
like
right.
2 years, right?
Yep,
Something
it's
like
2 years.
2 years. Yeah, because it was the anniversary, wasn't? That's why they're doing the memorial
Yep.
in it, you know. But yeah, yeah, it was. I just thought it was like a really good episode, really like well, like this was all like about Power Plex, you know, like Mark was there on the side, you know, dealing with it, but it was more like how this man just can't, you know, and I'm sure, and the thing is like I wonder how many more people are like this, you know, have that feeling of, you know, you did it. They like it doesn't matter if it was collateral damage or not. You did it.
Mhm.
You were there. You're the one that did it. You know, like they who don't know how to handle their grief. You know, with all the what? How many people died? You said 2,000 something like over
2000.
2,000.
Mhm.
So yeah. I don't know.
As Mark is trying to grab people's arms and trying to save them,
Yeah,
he was thrown into that building. But once again, why wouldn't you not have grief counseling? That should be part of it.
yeah, yeah. It should have been something for all these
This was
people.
this seemed like the first episode of The Boys. That's what this reminded me of.
Mm,
You know,
yeah, yeah. What happens when superpower people go off the rail
Mhm.
one way or another?
When A-Train ran through his
Yeah,
girlfriend.
yeah, yeah. That's true. And then you get Huey turning into what he turned into is very similar to Powerplex.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah,
Same thing with
yeah,
Butcher.
yeah, yeah. Well, Butcher, yeah, he just was the final step of it. But Butcher was
Mhm.
already Butcher. You know, he
Yep.
just that was the final straw to go up full on crazy. But yeah. So we got then the big finale was
The
you find out
Invincibles.
is Levi Engstrom or Levi Engstrom
Mhm.
was the guy with the cameras at the end, and then he turns around and you see all the Invincibles, and he's like,
Mhm.
"This will do." I thought we would have got into this point like at the very least this episode 6, you know, but now we only get the two more episodes, and
Mhm.
we get the Invincible War is about to start. Um, I'm not gonna spoil it or anything, you know, but yeah, you see what's coming. You're right. I
Mhm.
mean, Mark versus Mark. Um, but yeah, what do you guys
Versus
think
Mark
about that?
versus Mark versus Mark.
Yeah, yeah. What do you guys think about him versus himself?
Who's going to get their ass kicked even worse?
Yeah.
You don't think this is a microcosm of what you've already seen through the entire episode, this entire season? Of Mark versus himself being in his own head. Now he has a physical manifestation of all the things that he was fighting in his own head.
Mm.
You know, because he was every time he always second guesses himself. He's fighting that those feelings all the time. Now instead of fighting the feelings, he's going to have to find the actual physical manifestation of those feelings.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they're all very different. You can tell the way they look. They're all very different Marks. You know, different Invincibles. There was one in particular I was looking for, and I saw him. I'm like, yes. So, but yeah, it's gonna be good. I know that for sure. This is gonna be the next 2 episodes are gonna be fucking epic.
Yeah, I think they're gonna be fire.
Yeah. I mean, we're gonna see a lot of good action. I think. I'm curious to see where it ends with this storyline. That's my biggest thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I don't know. What do you guys? Anything else?
No, I mean we're gonna enjoy it. I'm glad that they're going somewhere with it, and if they're not going to get to the Viltrumite or even discuss this again, then they really need to do something, some type of words before we get into a 4th season.
Mm-hmm.
Well, still waiting for the same thing. You can't mention something in the 4th episode of season 3 and then go through the next 4 episodes and not talk about it again.
Mm-hmm. Mm. Yeah, I'm sure they'll do something. But I don't think they're gonna House of the Dragon it.
I sure hope not.
Wow.
That's all we got, man.
Yeah. See, I don't want to say things and ruin and spoil possibly stuff. But I think we're in for a couple more seasons that are going to be pretty good. You know, you know, because like this war that's coming, at least for me in the comic books, was like one of the big moments where like the comic book really started to change. You know, you're like, oh, you're getting some crazy shit. So excited, pretty excited. But cool. Yeah. That is our thoughts for this episode of Invincible. Let us know what you guys think. Was it a filler? Was it not a filler? Did you like it? Did you hate it? And what you think about Power Plex? You know, what do you think about the post-credit scene? One thing before we go, I loved how they did the title card this episode.
That was awesome.
With the Invincibles flashing, you know, every time you said Invincible, it flashed. It caught me off guard at first, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's kind of cool. Very, very different. You know, like they do some crazy shit with the title cards in this show. But yeah. Leave a comment. Let us know what you guys think. Make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, come and join us every Thursday when we talk about the next Invincible episode. And like I say, if you read the comics, try not to do spoilers for the non-comic book readers. But yeah, we appreciate everyone coming in, hanging out with us. And if you are in live chat, stick around because we're gonna move on to our next topic for the night.